So I'm going to use a fairly boring topic on purpose today, because that's usually where tools like Frase are most useful. Remember, I'm not trying to write content with AI. I just want to get an idea of what kind of content type works well with our topic. So after Frase has done its research, I'll go in and check the SERP analysis. This is the first thing I look at, but I'm not reading every article here. I'm looking for patterns. I'll ask myself, are they mostly long guides, short form content, listicles, tutorials? This helps me to gauge what kind of content type I should be making. For example, if everything here was a beginner guide and I wanted to write something completely different, then that would be a red flag in the planning and I'd have to adapt to match the topic. Because ultimately, this is what's showing us what Google expects to see on the first page for this kind of topic. Also, this is the best place to check for search intent. We can see all the different titles here. As you can see, ideas are mentioned a few times. And also we have some listicles. So this gives me some ideas of what kind of content I should be making. In terms of content length, I can see most of them are long form, ranging from 2,000 to 3,000 words. As you can see, there's some short form content here as well. But I'll probably ignore that because this one's from Medium. Content tends to be repurposed and put onto Medium, so they tend to be shorter. And also Tracking Time is an e-commerce site, so they also tend to have short form content on their blogs. As they're not investing too much into SEO, they tend to avoid long form content. So moving on to the outline section, there will be a list of headings here that have been pulled from the articles Frase has skimmed or scanned. This is where I slow down a bit. I'm not copying these headings, but I'm asking myself, if readers keep seeing these sections everywhere, why? What's the intent behind it? So for example, if 5 different articles have talked about hydration and I miss that in my content plan, then that's a red flag on my part. So that'll be something I definitely need to adapt and add to my plan. Also, sometimes I'll see headings that I don't want to include. For example, if I didn't want to talk about sleep, I could omit that, but at least I would be doing it on purpose rather than missing it out through lack of research. This way I have control over every topic that's included and every subtopic that's included in my content. I'm not leaving any content gaps, which is critical. Speaking of content gaps, this is where I'll come to see what Frase has identified as content opportunities. It's also a place to see where I've missed out on topics that could be interesting for my content. This part probably saves me the most time. You know, catching a content gap before the content goes live saves you a lot of time in editing articles later down the line. Even if I don't add something from here, just checking over it carefully and checking the titles, it reduces the chances of missing something obvious. So when I'm ready, I'll click Write Article and I'll let Frase do its thing. As you see, it's going through each step one by one. You have your word counts on the side. It'll take a couple of minutes depending on your word count you selected, but generally takes about 1 to 2 minutes, not more than that. So once it's completed all of my chosen sections, it will give me the finished piece. We'll have a quality score check on the side, our keywords. We have our competitor outlines here, which is, again, we can check on our competitors. We have their word counts here, how much headings they have. We can click on the external link here to have a quick skim of their article and compare. Now remember, I don't really use this to write full articles. You know, you'd still be expected to have a lot of input from yourself after, and it will need a lot of editing. But it's a great tool for planning and having a checklist before you start writing. This way of using Frase works best if you're already involved in content, like bloggers, site builders, SEOs, and content creators. However, if you're looking for one-click content that you can publish immediately, Frase is probably not the right tool for you. However, if you're looking for an assistant for planning, good research, analyzing content gaps and SERPs, within seconds, then Frase can be a great tool for your writing. So this is how I use Frase in my content planning. It's not perfect, but it's a great tool to have at your side and saves me a lot of time in the planning process. If you want a deeper breakdown, I have an article on my site, Digitools.ai, which will be in a link in the description. And if you're out there still comparing tools and not quite sure which one you'd like to choose, then I've got a broader comparison on the website, so you can really see where Frase fits into that. I suggest you check it out. Link will be in the description. See you again soon.